Come on, Livingston. We gotta go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We gotta go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in! It's Pittman who's got it! Livingston leads!
Road is long.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead!
Man, can score.
If we march together.
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates! And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
Come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Come on, Livingston. We gotta go.
Hello, you're listening to Talk Livi, the podcast dedicated to West Lothian's finest football team, Livingston Football Club, and proudly sponsored by Starnut Apparel. My name's Angus, and today I'm joined by Euan. Euan, how you doing, man?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I've enjoyed a little break, which included Scotland qualifying for the Euros. So a trip to Germany is on the cards, although two disappointing results in Seville and Lille, but two very good trips nonetheless. So it was good to get away. What about yourself, mate? How you enjoyed the little break from Livi action?
Yeah, that was all right. I'm just still numb from spending the whole weekend in Rugby Park, essentially, which of course we're going to get all into. But yeah, maybe I had better sporting weekends. But obviously, as you said, Scotland qualifying is a massive push. You even got to see like former Livingston player Liam Kelly get his first cap in that as well. So there's some positives. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be having many positives to be talking about throughout this podcast episode. But as always, you can search for Talk Livi on your preferred podcast streaming sites where you can follow or subscribe so you don't miss an episode. You can also catch all our episodes that we've done up to date on there as well.
We'll kick things off by discussing Livi's trip to Kilmarnock as the Lions were left licking their wounds after defeat in El Plastico.
The Lionesses completed the Rugby Park double header, but it would also be defeat for our ladies' side.
Finally, the Lions take on newly promoted Dundee as they look to get back to winning ways.
The Lions took on Kelly in the first El Plastico of the season. Despite Sean Kelly levelling for Livi from the spot, Kelly would run out comfortable 3-1 winners. Euan, what were your thoughts on the game? As you say, comfortable 3-1 winners there. Agree?
Yeah, I tweeted it on Saturday night in kind of response to the Kelly View boys' tweet about the game, and I thought we were bullied both on and off the ball for the full 90 minutes just about. I don't think we coped with the game at all from Kilmarnock, and they thoroughly deserved their 3 points. I have absolute zero arguments about the result. More disappointing just the manner in which we lose the game. We looked a bit, as I say, and it's something I feel like we've not had a criticism about the team this season, is kind of lack of physicality, kind of grit, doing the ugly side of the game well. But I kind of echoed that when I tweeted about it. It was a very McInnes Aberdeen-like performance against us. Aberdeen always seem to have our number under Derek McInnes, and McInnes always talks about the first thing you need to do against us is win the battle and do the ugly side of the game better, and then quality can kind of shine through in the end. And it's a kind of carbon copy of those games that we had in our first few seasons back in the top flight when McInnes was at Aberdeen. But yeah, early goal obviously gets Kilmarnock in front from Danny Armstrong. Really poor defending from our point of view. Luigi De Lucas didn't have his best game at the weekend, and I know Davies kind of talked about the mitigating circumstances where he probably wasn't going to start the game because he'd only came back from international duty on the Friday morning. So I don't know how big a part that has played in it, but he really struggled with Vassell all afternoon, and he's kind of got dragged into an area which you don't want your centre half having to go into. Vassell's managed to nutmeg him. The pitfall of Dan Mackay playing as a wing back kind of comes to fruition. He goes chasing the ball as well and leaves, I think it was Ndaba, the left wing fullback for Kilmarnock, to just kind of run off him and beyond him, and he puts the cross in. Wee bit unfortunate with the kind of ball breaks to Armstrong in the first place, and then it's taken a nick off Sean Kelly to beat Shamal George. But we did look like we had a little bit of a penalty claim on Dan Mackay before we did get our penalty. However, it looks pretty soft if it was to have been given. I wasn't screaming for that one, but we did get level, probably slightly undeservedly, although I do think we'd started to kind of settle into the game a little bit from about 20 minutes onwards. We do get the penalty. Sangary's fouled by Brad Lyons. I don't think there's any debate about the penalty. It's one of those ones where I think Lyons is just looking to hook the ball clear, and Sangary's came on his blind side and he's ended up kicking through the bottom of Sangary's foot. Clear penalty, and Sean Kelly makes it 3-3 from the spot. It's good to see our penalty woes have finally come to an end. That's one positive to take from the game, with Sean scoring his third in a row. But to get levels, try and get in at half time when you've not played particularly well. Just try and get into the break level, and then we concede from a set play. It's again Vassell's got goal sided to Lucas, and he's headed it into the far corner. It's really, really basic and poor defending from our point of view for that second goal. In second half, you're kind of hoping that the manager can get the team in at half time and regroup a little bit, try and settle down into the game. But to be totally honest, we were toothless second half. I don't think we showed anything that would indicate that we were trying to get back into the game. I thought the two forwards for Kilmarnock, Watkins and Vassell, as I say, just caused us no end of problems all afternoon. I actually thought Watkins was very, very good. The only thing missing from his performance was probably a goal, to be brutally honest. He had an effort. Liam Polworth had a shot, which is an easy save for Shamal George, and then comes the third goal off the back of Vassell hitting the bar at the back post. The ball again's worked its way out to a wide area, and Vassell gets across the front post and glances the header into the far corner. And to be honest, we never looked like getting back into the game. I know we had a couple of kind of half chances near the end. Bradley's had a cut back, which nobody's managed to get on the end of. Danny Lloyd had a free kick just wide, and Penner's had an effort which was flicked over the bar. But as I said, it was kind of all too little, too late at that point. Once the third goal goes in after the hour, we look dead and buried, to be honest. And it's such a shame kind of saying that, because we came on this previous podcast and talked about how the team hasn't had that lack of fight this season. Used the games at Ross County and St Johnstone, where we've not played particularly well, but we have ground out a result from the games. It just shows you that you can't afford to do that every week when you go away from home in this league. You need to be bang at it most weeks in order to get results, because the league is that tight. And yeah, it's just a really, really disappointing performance from us.
Yeah, fully disappointing. I think it's the manner of the defeat, and yeah, losing 3-1. The reaction from the Kilmarnock fans as well, that you can see, like, going to Twitter after the game, and there's so many of them who are saying that's such an unlivy-like performance, or so, like, I'm surprised at how easy that was for us to get about using stuff like that. One shot on target as well, and that coming from the penalty spot. We obviously did like the question time a couple of weeks ago, Euan, and there was like a question about like the style of play, and I think maybe there's a concerning aspect of that as well, where, as you've said, we've managed to ground out results against St Johnstone and Ross County, but they've both been on the back of us creating nothing. Thankfully, we've been playing teams there who haven't had enough quality to truly punish us, whereas Kilmarnock have done that there as well. We need to be so much better, because whatever that was on Saturday was really, really bad. There's no other way putting about it. All we looked to do was, to be fair, we did look to do what kind of Kilmarnock did, and it was hit the ball up top. The difference is that we're doing it to Bruce Anderson with nobody kind of getting anywhere near him, whereas they had Vassell and Watkins who were putting themselves about and commanding that kind of area. Yeah, we were just miles off it, and yeah, it's just painful to watch, in all honesty. I think as well there's a bit of questioning regarding, maybe changes in that were made. I think we ended up with a midfield of Sean Kelly, Sangari, and Stephen Bradley as a forward, as a midfield three. That was with Shinnie on the bench at the time, I think, with Stephen Kelly on the bench at the time, Holt and Pittman coming off. If we're not creating anything and stuff like that, then I'm not too sure as to why that's happened. I think Davies came out and said about, in regards to dealing with them at set pieces and stuff like that. I mean, we conceded 2 goals from basically from that. Well, 3 goals from crosses. So we didn't necessarily deal with that either. And it's as if we sacrificed, us trying to play any sort of football in terms of doing that, and it's completely backfired on us. Just a wholly disappointing afternoon, to be honest, Euan. It was, yeah, I think we got back into the game, but I still think that we're quite lucky in doing so. I think the only kind of glimpses that we had again was from James Penrice, who was getting down and behind on the left-hand side. But, we're still unable to carve any opportunities in that. And yeah, again, we can take it and beat you in, but it's just, yeah, we were second to best to every ball all afternoon.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned the selection, and listening to the manager's comments, it was a case that he was, wary of the fact that we'd probably be dealing with a few balls into our box. So the likes of Sangari came into the side, to add that little bit of height into the team. But as you say, it's not worked, is it? I feel it's easy to criticise the manager for a team selection, but a bit of the blame has to go on the players as well, because they've not carried out the game plan and they've not defended their area well enough. So, the manager's asked them to go on there and do a job, but they've clearly not.
I think it was Carson in the forum who basically kind of said that, and it's like, if it works that way, you're kind of hailing the team. The only kind of thing that I would maybe say about it is that, we've spent 90 minutes just punting the ball up to Anderson, and there's not really been much of an instruction to change that. That's probably the aspect, I guess, that I would put more of the blame on the kind of coaching side of things. But you're completely correct in regards of, the players carrying out the instructions. Second goal is an absolute epitome of that. How we can have a free kick basically touching the touchline and it goes into the box and there's 5 yards between us and the goal scorer. Could the goalkeeper come and collect it as well? Can we get, somebody at least challenging? Spot on about the players not carrying the instructions as well.
In terms of the team selection, obviously we saw Obalai wasn't in the squad at all, which suggests he wasn't. I believe he had a slight knock, but Davies kind of mentioned he should be back available for the Dundee game. Mentioned it before that ended up forcing DeLucas to start the game, who he didn't intend to give a starting berth to because he had been on international duty. He played a couple of games and only got back on a Friday morning. And we mentioned Sangari as well. Do you think, and again, I'll kind of contradict myself a little bit, obviously, if the game plan works, it's genius from the manager, but after you've probably had arguably your best performance this season against Motherwell, other than the Obalai change, there wasn't really a necessity to make changes, was there?
Nah, I wouldn't say so. I think obviously Obalai's been forced out, I'm assuming because of injury, because he wasn't in the squad at all. Yeah, I don't really see much of an issue as to change like Stephen Kelly for Sangari in there as well. But the manager's been transparent with that and mentioned about wanting to defend our own box and stuff like that. And I guess Sangari is, out of all of our centre midfielders, is probably the most kind of towering. If he was going to do that, I'd maybe prefer to have seen like Shinnie, who does offer you a wee bit of height in there still, and it still has that technical ability to kind of keep the ball and have a wee bit of calmness and stuff. But at the end of the day, Sangari, he's an interesting player, Euan, for me. I think you've seen that game against Celtic where he has like those kind of physical attributes, and I think that's maybe why you can see why Davies kind of went from in this game, where he's expected it to be a bit of a battle and that he's going to be committed into challenges. He's going to go into the perhaps make runs and that, but we didn't see that kind of attacking side from him to kind of merit that. And I don't think that he won nearly enough in the middle either to properly kind of sacrifice his playing, a wee bit more football on the deck, which like a Shinnie or a Stephen Kelly would have done so. So it's going to be interesting to see, what he kind of lines up for in this next game against Dundee, because it needs drastically amended, I would say.
The other kind of aspect I noticed watching the game was some of the substitutions seemed a little bit bizarre in terms of tweaking players' positions. Joel Newbley played, I think, 3 different positions throughout the game. Kind of started in that number 10 role, which he's played most of this season. Then was at right wing back. Then was kind of playing as a 2 up top with Curtis Guthrie at the tail end of the game. I'll be brutally honest, I don't think any of the 3 positions really worked for Noobs on the afternoon. And again, I'm going to kind of go back to, I think other teams have cottoned on how to play against Joel Newbley, and we've not found a way to get the best out of Newbley now that teams have kind of combated that. But there was just some interesting kind of tweaks to the team. Montano, we ended up playing at left centre back. You mentioned about Stephen Bradley. Do you reckon there's an element where the managers maybe looked at it, thought we're not getting back in this game, and the likes of Montano's been out, likes of Danny Lloyd hasn't had a lot of football. Is it a case that he's tried to just fit players onto the park to give them minutes at the tail end of that game?
Perhaps, but I feel like that would be admitting defeat quite early.
I don't agree with it, by the way. But is that...
I feel like if that's the case as well, then is that the chance to maybe take like a new player that off, give him a little bit of a rest, and see what like a Bradley can do in that kind of area or something like that instead. But yeah, I guess like in terms of moving players about and stuff like that, I think that may have hindered us a wee bit as well. You're talking about there, Newbley's went from left mid, he's went to right wing back, he's then went to up front, and it's like, in all honesty, how many positions do we kind of have to move him about until it's maybe somebody else comes on into an area that they're properly naturally fitted for? Is there an element of it's hard to kind of drop a player who we know can be a star player, but if it's not on form, then and he's not playing well, then is it worth bringing somebody else on? Is there an element of that in there? I'm not too sure. Again, we've seen Bruce Anderson come off when it's 3-1 and we're trying to get back into the game. I think there's actually a chance it falls quite late on that, if Bruce Anderson's on the park, he probably taps in because he's the one who'll be in that kind of area as well. It's just one of those kind of games for us. Doesn't seem to be our day at the office, essentially. And yeah, hopefully it's not something that's going to be a repeat occurrence for. And I think that the team will be very much working hard to amend that. It's a massive game coming up, a massive couple of games coming up against Dundee there. We can't really afford to lose them, I don't think, either. So we're going to be working on it. And yeah, hopefully it's going to be a much better performance because I don't think we can do much worse, to be honest.
Well, that's probably the hope from this game, is that that's the worst that we should hopefully see us this season, and hopefully it sparks a reaction from the players going into that Dundee game. We're delighted to have Strana Apparel as sponsors of Talk Livi. UK based with a Swedish soul, we are Strana. Strana is an independent fashion brand from Scotland who create high quality and stylish attire for on and off the terraces. Inspired by terrace culture, lifestyle and music, all their clothing is designed using quality materials and workmanship to combine the very best style and fit. All of this means you get a premium quality fashion at affordable prices while enjoying a simple and secure service.
As a bonus for Talk Livi listeners, you can get 10% off your order using the code TalkLivi at the checkout. We'll also have some exclusive giveaways during the season, so keep your eyes peeled on our socials for those too. And thanks to Sterner for sponsoring Talk Livi.
It was an El Plastico double header as the Lionesses also made the trip to Rugby Park. Angus, obviously we've had a couple of weeks off from the podcast. Our women's side were in action last weekend at home against Stirling Uni, and they did manage to get 3 points on the board, a 2-0 victory in the end. We'll kind of briefly touch on that so that we've got something positive to talk about on this podcast more than anything, but kind of briefly touch on good result for the girls last weekend, certainly.
Yeah. I think it was important following the Queen's Park game to kind of bounce back kind of as quick as possible. And it was kind of a fairly solid performance. I think the first half, to be fair, was quite competitive. I don't think either side were creating too many kind of chances and stuff like that. Going back to that game, we were competing well and stuff like that. It was just kind of finding it hard to to create the openings. And I think that Stirling Uni, I think even though they're kind of one of the teams who are down at the bottom, because they are like a kind of a uni team, they are very kind of close connected. I don't know if they maybe train a couple more times a week, and that you can see that their shaping that is pretty like solid and stuff. Like you can tell that there is some extra work kind of going on to there. I don't know how much they are impacted every season by players leaving the uni and stuff like that. To be honest, I don't know like what kind of goes on there. But I think that they're probably better than what the table kind of suggests at the moment. For us, yeah, I think that it was just about kind of getting that breakthrough, and thankfully we did so. Through Raywin Murphy, with a very well timed volley. I think there's a hint of offside, but it seemed to be the Stirling player who'd flicked it on for her, and then Shannon Mulligan adds a header as well. I think that the
Do you know what I mean? Ashley Elizabeth, double.
I was going to touch on that there. I think if you ask David Hasty who's scored for us, every goal and assist is by Ashley Elizabeth, it seems. Aye, for the game, very, very solid from us. A good clean sheet to get as well. Bouncing back from that Queen's Park game, and set us up nicely for the game against Kilmarnock. But unfortunately, we would go there and take a 4-2 defeat. Started off very brightly though, Euan, with a good free kick from Natasha Frew. I think it's caught the keeper out. Maybe the goalkeeper should be doing better from this, but I think that the aspect that we'll probably be most disappointed about is that in the first 5 minutes we've piled this free kick on top of this goalkeeper and she's not managed to deal with it, and then it's taken us until about the 80th minute to have like another shot on target. I think after that moment the instruction probably could have been, shoot on sight essentially. Let's get balls on top of this goalkeeper, because I think it was a replacement keeper who was in, and then 5 minutes into a game you can see the goal like that. You're probably going to be, your confidence isn't going to be as great as it was. And I think we'll be feeling a bit disappointed that we hadn't taken more efforts, even if it was from 30 25 yards out and stuff like that, to try and test this goalkeeper. We were getting into kind of decent positions. I think that we had a bit of a makeshift kind of midfield and front line. As I said there, the two goal scorers from last week, Raywin Murphy and Shannon Mulligan, both decided to go on holiday, which is, not very ideal.
Criminal that.
I think it was birthday celebration, so we'll let them away with it. And Courtney McAvoy went off injured last week, and I think that she was just returning as well. So you're probably talking about three midfielders there who, probably usually now probably kind of play were unavailable, and then we had Shannon Todd and Lucy Watt came up the top as well. Jen Dodds, Hannah Davey, and Brogan Anderson went into the midfield, and I think that we were competing quite well in that. We're keeping the ball well. I think Jen was doing a decent job of recycling the ball, making use of it, not kind of just hooking it away and stuff like that. And I think that we got into some decent areas. It just was that final pass or that final player to take on, and that just wasn't coming off. Unfortunately, against a team like Kilmarnock, who have some really good quality in their team, they are going to take kind of advantage of that. If you're not going to be putting much pressure, taking advantage of chances in their final third, they certainly are going to be in ours, because the amount of crosses that they are putting in, their trying efforts and everything like that. The first goal that they get, we're quite unfortunate that we block a couple of shots and it falls to Lassie for an open goal. Second one, we clear a couple of crosses. It's only a matter of time before another one comes in, and they're filling the box, and we're not kind of matching the runs, and it's a good header to make it 2-1. After half time, I think before that actually, Molly Reeve actually made a couple of absolutely cracking saves. I'm pretty sure there's one that is a complete for the camera save. I think it was a driven shot from maybe about 30 yards in that.
Modern day goalkeepers, they need to make it look spectacular.
Oh, it did look spectacular. Absolutely flew through the air, tips the ball onto the post, and it's just like, oof, I don't even think I would have saved that. And as you know, I'm a world class goalkeeper. But yeah, going into the second half, I think that that next goal was probably going to be crucial. Unfortunately for us, the ball ends up in a loose goal kick kind of ends up in the middle of the park. Kilmarnock run through and make it 3-1, and I think that at that kind of moment there, the heads kind of drop maybe a little bit, and Kilmarnock have got the full confidence and are kind of knocking the ball about and still kind of putting pressure on us. A lot of kind of long balls over the top for pacey wingers to get in behind, and I think that's how they get their fourth goal as well. It's another good finish from a 1v1. Yeah, I think that's basically a tale of one team who are making an advantage of them. I'd probably say, like, in terms of possession, it wouldn't be massively too far off one another. I think it was just essentially what, they were kind of doing with the ball. I think that they were creating a lot more in open play. They were making use of the wings and stuff like that, getting the crosses in and, flooding the box, picking up on the loose balls outside of our box and getting shots away. We
Bit
would
more
make
of a
it.
case of possession with a purpose, would you
Yeah,
say?
exactly. I think that, we did end up getting a second goal. I think Courtney McAvoy was brought on and added a wee bit more kind of grit into that middle of the park, showing the ball, and it's a nice wee looping effort. And I think there's maybe the element of frustration there that we've had, kind of two shots on target properly, and we've scored two goals from them. If we'd maybe tried our luck a wee bit more or showcased a little bit more of quality, yeah, what could have possibly happened? Because I do think that Kilmarnock are, attacking wise, a very, very good team. But there were instances where, we're hitting the ball up and, like so Lucy Watt and Shannon Todd were holding the ball up really well, and we were able to get in behind them. It was just that we weren't able to make that last kind of connecting thing into the box or, around the box kind of come off. And I don't think it's the most disheartening performance from us. I think that they're one of the better teams in the league. I think that they may end up being the best team in the league. I think that they lost to St Johnstone, I think, last week. I think it was they got a man sent off as well, and I don't know if that was a big contributing factor, but I expect them to kind of bounce back and be one of the teams who are challenging for, either automatic promotion or, to be into that playoff. But yeah, I don't think that there's, a massive amount between the two sides. I think if we maybe make a wee couple of tweaks and stuff like that, and we can be a wee bit more just a wee bit more creative on the ball and create those opportunities a little bit better. I don't think that there's we're massively away from a team like that.
Yeah, I also take into consideration what you said at the start, that there's a few players missing who may well have started that game as well, who have been kind of regulars on the side this season, despite the number of players that kind of did come in. They've been, as I say, more regulars in the starting 11. So that's probably not helped when you're going away from home to play, as you say, probably the best side in the league and team that's kind of sitting top of the table at this moment in time as well. So, those things don't help. But, they've went and scored 3 goals so far this season against the best side in the league. As you say, it's obviously the quality at the opposite end, which is kind of setting Kilmarnock apart from other teams in the division. So, but it's, unfortunate result, but at least there are some positives to take from the performance, and that they were competitive in the game, just maybe showing that little bit more quality, and they might have been able to make a bit more of a fist of the game in the end.
Yeah, that definitely does seem to be the case. So Queen's Park are top at the moment, Kilmarnock as well. And from the two games, it is literally just because they've got players who will take those kind of attempts and all of that. They've got players who, when they're in the attacking third, that they're putting the balls into the right areas and stuff like that. And hopefully we can kind of reach that stage sometime in the season as well, and start being a wee bit more kind of streetwise, through open play channels and stuff like that. But yeah, I think a couple of weeks' time we've got to play Glasgow women at home. We've got a good couple of weeks to work on kind of stuff and all that. I'm sure that the team are going to be making the use of the 4 training sessions before then and stuff. And yeah, hopefully it's back to winning ways in no time. Next up for the Lions is the visit of newly promoted Dundee to West Lothian, as the Lions look to get back to winning ways. Euan, how are you feeling ahead of this one? I don't feel like Dundee have played an awful lot. They had like a game called off. Have they had 2 games called off already this season?
Yeah, so they had a game called off just before the international break due to the pitch being waterlogged at Dens Park, and then obviously because of the flooding at the weekend there, they were due to be playing up in Aberdeen, but my dad stays in Forfar, so I know fine well that 890 was closed from Dundee up to Stonehaven, so I don't think the Dundee team would have been very successful getting up to Aberdeen to fulfil the fixture. So yeah, they've not played an awful lot in recent weeks, and that was one of my first kind of talking points looking at this game, is how rusty are Dundee going to be. You'd like to think that we might be a little bit sharper coming into this game, and hopefully we can kind of go out, come out of traps flying, and try and put them on the back foot early doors and put the pressure on Dundee. I have to say it was a an interesting summer at Dens Park, probably to say the least. Gary Bowyer obviously moved on after winning the championship title on the final day of the season last year, and I have to say it's quite an interesting appointment they made in the end with Tony Docherty, obviously long-term assistant to Derek McInnes, but he's a very, very experienced coach, a very, very experienced number two. He's had stints in the Scotland setup with Gordon Strachan when he was the international manager, which, with Strachan's involvement at Dundee, I'm probably sure that's where that connection came from and how Tony Docherty's ended up there. But certainly the clips I've seen of Docherty after games, he comes across very, very well. And I think it's an interesting but kind of almost quite a steady appointment from Dundee, actually. But yeah, they've started okay this season. I think it's only the one league win, which was against Hearts. A fantastic goal, I think, from memory from Luke McCowan, chip over Xander Clark. But they have only lost 2 of their 7 games that they've played. They've drawn quite a few games, a couple that they've shown a little bit of character to get back into, down to 10 men against Kilmarnock, scored late on to rescue a draw 2 each there. So they've been more than competitive since coming up, but come the end of the season, you're fully expecting, potentially ourselves, if we're expecting to be in a bit of a scrap, you're probably expecting clubs like Dundee to be in and around us. So these games, these head-to-heads are probably going to be what can potentially separate us from being right in amongst that scrap or being in amongst it. And I'm sure Dundee will be looking at this game as a great opportunity to get 3 points. But yeah, I think they've got a few players who have been very bright this season. As I say, the boy Luke McCowan's shown some positive flashes. Bakayoko, big number 9 up front for them, has been a handful. He's provided a couple of assists, couple of goals in there as well. Somebody we know very well from his time at Livingston, Scott Tiffany, signed for them during the summer from Partick Thistle. No, Tiffs can cause a lot of problems on his day. Bit of a live wire, bit unpredictable at times as well, but he does have a little bit of a creative spark. So they've certainly got players that can hurt you. But as I say, they have only won the 1 game this season. So it's not a team that we should be coming in and fearing. And as I say, these are games that are probably going to define our season at the end of the day. And we've got them in quick succession, the game at Livi, and then obviously the game's been rearranged for the start of November. So I think it's certainly a game we need to be looking at targeting 3 points and getting back to winning ways.
In all honesty, I don't actually know too much about kind of Dundee, and the fact that they've missed 2 games recently as well doesn't help much more. But yeah, I think that we're looking at these 2 games as probably ones that we can't lose either of them. Probably looking at least 4 points as well, I would imagine. If so, that's a massive, massive boost for us. But yeah, hopefully it's a team that, we can focus on ourselves and, what we can do and to hurt them, because I'd like to think that off the basis of things and off the basis of the season so far, that we should be able to host them at home and pick up a victory. With saying that, it's going to be interesting to see what the kind of team selection is. I think you're probably going to go back to as close to that Motherwell team as possible. I would like to think so, but yeah, it's a big game for us. We're going to need to be so much at it, and I think that when we're playing teams at this kind of end of the table and stuff like that, we're going to have to do what we didn't do against Kilmarnock, and it's going to be winning that kind of battle to begin with, because it is going to be a fiercely competitive game. I think they're going to come here knowing that if they want to stay into this league, if they come to here and pick up points and stuff like that, it's going to be massive in helping them doing so, as they'll probably be targeting us to be one of their options at the end of the season as well. But yeah, Euan, as we briefly kind of touched on, like kind of selection there, is it basically going back to that Motherwell side for you?
I think so. I think you need to get some of your more creative players back on the pitch. It's you've probably got a bit of debate in terms of your centre midfield pairing. Jason Holt's been the mainstay in there. Andrew Shinnie certainly was at the start of the season, and I think Shinnie's had a very solid season so far, but Pitts has come in, certainly came in against Motherwell, did really well in there. Is there a debate on Nibley? I have a funny feeling he's probably going to start the game, but for me, we've not seen enough of Joe, and it's maybe an opportunity for the manager to give somebody else a chance. Somebody like a Stephen Bradley, maybe pushing Dan Mackay into a more forward area rather than as a wing back as well. And as I say, trying to get Stephen Kelly back into the side, because I think Stephen's, I've said it since the start of the season, I think you should be looking to try and build a team around him. I think he's your best midfielder, and he has the potential to kind of make us tick. So I'd be looking to try and shoehorn him back into the side somehow. But yeah, I think I would assume Ayo Obalai will return to the side. I don't know what the deal was with Mikey Devlin. It seemed like he was having a bit of an issue with his wrist at the weekend. He seemed to be holding that quite a lot, so I don't know if that potentially rules him out. And then you're back to Obalai, kind of centre of your back three with the Lucas on the right, Kelly on the left of that, kind of similar to how we finished up the games against St Johnstone and played against Motherwell. So it'll be interesting to see if we go with that. As I say, I think there's numerous changes you can make to the side, and I don't think many players could have an argument if they were dropped after a performance at Rugby Park. So it'll be interesting to see how ruthless the manager is in terms of what his thoughts were on that performance, and what players can keep the jersey for the game against Dundee. What about yourself? Who's the figures that you'd like to see in the starting 11?
Yeah, I think that I would like to see Dan Mackay remain in the squad. I know he was taken off early into the second half, but as you're saying, yeah, Stephen Kelly, I think, if we have these kind of players who are, ball playing footballers essentially, against a team like Dundee, we should hopefully be able to take advantage of that. I think we had a good couple of results against them in the last season that were up in the division because we took advantage of that. Anderson had a good couple of goals against them as well. So it's all about kind of supplying those kind of guys. One interesting aspect is maybe Christian Montano. Do you maybe try and fit him in somewhere? You look at, he came on at left centre half. Is that maybe an option to kind of mimic the Scotland setup by having two very good left backs and try to fit them into the team with Penrice and Montano being our version of Tierney and Robertson? Or will we see maybe Montano go back out onto the right-hand side, which happened a few times in pre-season as well? Perhaps that's an option. I'm not too sure. Maybe it might be a wee bit too soon for like the best part of a 90 minutes, but it's certainly something there. Or at least if he's coming off the bench, then it's somebody who's very, very worthy and capable of causing a team some issues. I think his directness and stuff like that. He's somebody who'll carry the ball up the pitch rather than just kind of going along with it and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's maybe an interesting prospect to take up.
Yeah, we've talked about this kind of all season. There's definitely options, and probably options we didn't have a great deal of last season, in particular more in the forward areas. So there's a little bit more debate around who you kind of fit into, especially those forward three areas, and then you're talking about almost shoehorning guys potentially in as a wing back to kind of fit them into the side. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who his front three is. If I had to get you to nail on a front three, who would you go for?
A front three. What? So still playing the five at the back with the 2 10s, is it? It's going to be Newbley, Anderson, and I would hope Kelly. Would I maybe like to see Dan Mackay, Kelly, and Anderson there to be buzzing about? I would probably say so. Yeah. And then you could maybe bring in like Jamie Brandon back into right wing back, which I don't think's had a bad season so far at all. But as you kind of mentioned there, it's good to have some options in that as well. That's not even including like Stephen Bradley or even like Curtis Guthrie in that as well. But yeah, what about yourself? What would you?
Yeah, I would be echoing what you said there to try and fit Kelly and Mackay in as those 10s. By the way, just to put on record, I've had a bit of a dig at Joel on this podcast, but I absolutely love the big man. I think he's a terrific footballer, and he's been magnificent for us for the best part of his spell in Livingston. But at the same time, he's clearly off a bit of form. I think teams have cottoned on how to play against him. They're getting lots of bodies in and around him, and I don't think we've fathomed out a way to get the best out of him again. And I feel we maybe need to freshen it up a little bit. And, if that's given guys like Mackay, Stephen Kelly an opportunity in those positions, then I'm kind of all for it, to be totally honest. I think we need to look after the team and try and get the best out of the players in the squad that we've got. And as I say with Joel at this moment in time, I don't think we are getting the best out of him. Maybe we just need a game plan we need to think of, because when he is on it, saw that at Easter Road earlier this season, he's borderline unplayable when he is on it, Joel. But unfortunately, that's not been the case often enough, I would say, this season for us.
I think an interesting aspect as well could be, as you're saying, if Michael Devlin's not fully fit, if DeLucas isn't fully fit or something like that as well, could we go to a 4-3-3, and then you could have actual wingers with Newbley and Mackay, which would seem to suit Newbley a lot more, because his best football has came when he's been playing as a winger. Would that make a massive difference to that style, having them kind of supplying Anderson in the middle? Maybe that's a better avenue for us to go into in this kind of a game, especially if we're kind of scrambling for defenders. If we've got DeLucas is just kind of back from international duty. If Ayo and Michael Devlin are kind of carrying knocks, then is that maybe a better kind of route to go up, a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 kind of thing?
Well, that back four was implemented in the games against Celtic and Rangers, wasn't it? Because of players being available. So the manager has obviously had to resort to that at points already this season. So yeah, you're right. If for example, if I was maybe still not quite ready to feature Devlin, we'll wait and see what happens in terms of what looked like a wrist injury that he seemed to have picked up at Rugby Park at the weekend. Could well be that it's a back four, and in that case, if you're getting Joel out into what I would say is his best position out on that left-hand side, then hopefully it sees a return to form for him as well, if that was the case. But let's go predictions then, Angus. What are you going for?
I'll be optimistic. I'll go for 2-0 Livingston.
Oof, 2-0. A clean sheet as well in there. Oof.
Clean sheet, 3 points, away to Halloween party. Let's go.
I'll go 2-1. 2-1 Livy. So we're both predicting 3 points, so apologies when we come to do the podcast next week when we're talking about a Dundee victory. Here's hoping we can get back to winning ways and entertain the bigger crowd, which will be at the Tony Mac as well. We've handed out 4,000 free community tickets, so hopefully they're leaving the ground thoroughly entertained with 3 points for the Lions. That's it for this week's episode of Talk Livi. We really appreciate you tuning in every week, and we'd love to hear your feedback. You can leave us a review on iTunes or drop us a message on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
As Euan said, we're on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, so simply search Talk Livi to find us. You'll find all the links to our weekly episodes on there, and any shares and likes are always appreciated. All our episodes are available on all usual podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube, and we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we've done over the last few years.
That's it for this week, and thanks to all our listeners for tuning in as always. And let's hope for, let's be honest, a slightly better week following the Lothian's finest football team.
West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Ammonvale. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, oh Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Ammonvale Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the